Dan Magness and his family have been farming this land in Maryland since 1960. A little more than 25 years ago, Dan got the fever and started collecting Porsche farm tractors.
This is the first tractor I collected. It's probably 26 years that I've had it. Was looking for a Porsche, and this is the first one that I found. Restored it. We try to do everything on a tractor ourselves, and we literally, for the most part, do. This is my two-cylinder Porsche 57. It was on the calendar, a classic tractor calendar, in 1997. That was the one year they didn't do a video, so glad to have the opportunity for this old girl to get its day. And the reason I started with Porsche is because they only made the 4 models, and my goal was to have all 4 models and have a complete collection of something without having to have hundreds of tractors to make a complete collection. So it's worked out well for me.
Dan didn't stop with Porsche. He's added other rare machines, including an unusual Case LAI military tractor, a 1918 Twin City, and he even scratch-built a replica of the 3-wheeled Common Sense tractor from way back in 1915. But our goal today is to salute an unusual diesel-powered farm machine built in England. Meet the 1948 Field Marshal.
It's a 1-cylinder 2-stroke diesel, which is nothing like that was ever made in this country. In Europe, there were several models. It was kind of a popular design. Europe tended to jump on the diesel fad long before the United States did. They're a very efficient tractor, very simple. But like I say, practically every country had their own brand of a 1-cylinder 2-stroke diesel. Probably the most famous would be the Lanz from Germany.
Short-framed and stout, the Field Marshal tractors were likely the first diesel-powered machines built outside of Germany. And that 1-cylinder engine is incredible in its design.
Really unique. It's a little over 300 cubic inches. The piston has a bore of 6.5 inches, I believe, and a 9-inch stroke. It is a 2-stroke diesel. It breathes just like a chainsaw or a weed eater would. In the top of the engine is a huge set of reed valves that it breathes through the crankcase. There's no valves in the engine, just ports like a chainsaw would have. And so when the cylinder's going forward, it breathes into the crankcase. When it comes, piston comes back, it compresses that air. When the ports open, that air rushes into the cylinder, and it has that goofy looking exhaust stack on it, which most people think is something I made up, but that is original. It's correct, and it probably is the original. And the reason for the design of that is because it's breathing through the crankcase, it tends to want to blow oil out the exhaust stack.
Dan's Field Marshal made its way to Canada and spent most of its working life in Alberta before winding up at a tractor auction in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, where Dan made it his own.
It's not something, I don't think they were ever like an owner-operator tractor. It was like whoever owned the farm put somebody else on it to drive it. They're so short a wheelbase that they ride a little rough. Of course, no power steering, steer a little hard. But their claim to fame was the fuel efficiency. They could burn diesel fuel. You could mix lard and gasoline together. You could run burnt motor oil or mix a little gasoline in with it, kerosene, raw vegetable oil. And the reason for that is because it's one huge cylinder. It also has one huge injector, an injector pump. And it's a Bosch injection system, but it's only 2,000 PSI of pressure. Today we're talking 10 to 20 times those kind of pressure in modern engines. But in its day, and it only revs wide open 750 RPM, so it has a long burn cycle too, which made it, even though you had rather crude injection, it had the time factor to efficiently burn the fuel. So, and they very low wear because of the low engine speeds.
The Field Marshal is especially unusual because of the way it starts. You have to get spark to the huge diesel engine. One way is with a 12-gauge shotgun shell.
The shotgun starter is really something that came about from World War II. There was military aircraft that used that technology. And I'm not sure how many years they were made with the shotgun start, but it wasn't the entire span of production. So the shotgun starts are definitely the rarest and most desirable of the field marshals. This is where the shotgun shell would go if you were to start the engine with the shotgun. It's a blank 12-gauge cartridge, and this is actually the firing pin that you would tap it with a hammer or a wrench, whatever you happen to have. And that's all after you do all the other procedures getting up to that.
Dan can't get the right British-made shotgun load to start the field marshal, so he uses the second method, which is essentially to start a small fire inside the tractor before cranking the engine.
In the owner's manual, it actually directs you to find a twig the size of a pencil and break it into about 3 to 4 pieces, and you put it into the engine where this glow plug would screw in, and that's actually going into the it's not a direct injection engine, it's going into a pre-combustion chamber. So you have these little dry twigs in there, you start it with your paper and all, and theoretically it runs long enough to get this wood burning, and the wood will burn long enough till the engine heats up. And because the engine's so huge and breathing through ports and everything, there's no risk of damage. You see, it's all the time spitting out unburned paper and everything else. So once I have this paper burning pretty good, you'll notice when I take the flame away, most of the flame around the paper is going to go out too, but it does have a nice smoldering red glow to it, which hopefully will continue and be enough to get the engine started. So now it's up to Ben.
From learning to start the engine to completing a loving restoration, Dan has attended to every detail when it comes to preserving field marshal history.
In my mind, the field marshal was like the ultimate collector tractor, just the uniqueness, the shotgun shell start and everything. And it was my goal to someday have one. Field marshal has to have the busiest emblem of any tractor company. It's a hand holding a baton with the goddess Athena, and she's holding a trident, and she's petting a lion that's sitting there. And by the way, this is actually a reproduction. I have the original emblems, but I consider them so valuable that my son actually has a foundry, and he cast me this duplicate emblem. It looks just as good as the original.
And Dan even purchased a rare, hand-built 1981 Marmon truck to haul his prize tractor.
And this truck, as it turns out, I bought it just because it was a cool old truck, but as it turns out, it is one of the rarer Marmons. What makes it kind of special is some of the design features about it. It's called a V-nose model because it has a slight V to the grill, a fancier emblem, cast iron, cast and polished aluminum, and that opens up to get into your radiator. Has a V-shaped bumper, which very few survive. This is the only one that most people know of, but it's the original, has the slight V to it.
Rare trucks, rare tractors. This is one Maryland farmer who's doing his part to save coveted classics for the long haul. Hey, thanks for catching Classic Tractor Fever. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel right here on YouTube. You can also find even more videos and branded merchandise over on our website, ClassicTractorsTV.com. Now don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button.